Welcome to the Real Estate Deep Dive with Paul D. Garrison from JP and Associate Realtors. Today we're going to be taking a look at the question, is the housing market starting to cool off? If you've been looking at the headlines lately, they do a lot more to terrify people than to clarify the actual issue or question. Because of the drop in sales back in June, you're seeing a lot of headlines asking, is the housing boom officially over? While these headlines aren't incorrect in reporting that there was a drop in sales in June, they do need to be put in context. To do that, let's first take a quick look at a report that was put out by the National Association of Home Builders. It shows that while before the pandemic, we actually were trending downward as far as the percentage of prospective home buyers planning to buy a home in the next 12 months. But after the peak of the pandemic back in the first quarter of 2020, you notice that the actual number has skyrocketed back up to over 17%. So if that's the case, you may be asking, well, what's going on with existing home sales then? Looking at the existing home sales data from the National Association of Realtors helps illustrate what happened a little bit better. While yes, existing home sales have dropped since their high after the pandemic, we're still actually above where we were before the pandemic. So let's take a look at some of the factors that are affecting existing home sales. This slide actually shows buyer traffic by state and how it's changed from April to June of this year. Obviously, the darker colors show the higher buyer traffic, and as they start to lighten, the buyer traffic is starting to wane. That said, while some states are starting to see buyer traffic waning, Texas and a few other states still have strong traffic from buyers. Even with buyer traffic starting to drop off in some of the states, we're still actually higher than we were in all of 2020. So while buyer fatigue could explain why we're starting to see some buyer traffic starting to wane in certain states, also another factor could be that the jump that we had earlier in the quarter with mortgage rates. You'll notice that we actually kind of hit a bottom back at around the beginning of the year at 2.65%. And then rates jumped back up quite steadily to above 3. We have since started to drop back down towards the 2.7 range. So that was buyer traffic. Now let's take a quick look at what seller traffic was like in the second quarter of 2021. So in this chart, the darker grays and light gray are very, very low traffic from seller standpoint. As you start to get into the lighter blues and the darker blues, you're actually seeing more traffic or more listings coming to the market. So as we progress through the second quarter, we see that more and more states are starting to see a greater amount of seller traffic, including Texas. This is evidenced in the monthly new listing count. You can see that since the beginning of the year, we've almost doubled in the number of new listings coming on each month. While that's good, we still need to keep it in perspective. In June, we saw a year-over-year change in the housing inventory of a negative 43% across the nation and negative 50% for Texas. Now, the bright spot is in July, we actually saw this decrease to a negative 33.5% for the United States and negative 39% for Texas. So to answer the initial question, yes, we are starting to see a cooling of the market, especially in some of the states across the U.S. But I would say it's far from an end for the housing boom. Instead, I like to equate it to when you're speeding along at 70, 80 miles per hour and you see a cop, so you slow down to, say, 40 miles per hour. It feels like you're crawling, but you're still actually moving at a very good pace. So again, it's very important to keep things in perspective. Yes, the market is starting to cool, but yes, we're still in a very strong seller's market. This graph from NAR actually kind of highlights that. So yes, we're still seeing multiple offers on the really nice homes. We're still seeing homes sell in a matter of days. And we're likely to continue to see that for a while longer. It may not be quite as frenzied as it was earlier in the year, but it still is a very strong seller's market. Many of the metrics and numbers in this presentation are based off of the national real estate market. However, local areas can vary. Please give me a call and we can discuss your situation. Have questions about your specific needs or location? Please contact me at 214-683-8188 or paul@pauldgarrison.com. Want more information about the housing market and related issues? Be sure and check out my blog at www.pauldgarrison.com. Thank you for your time. Please take a moment to visit our website at www.pauldgarrison.com.